Perseverance is often painted as the ultimate virtue, isn't it? Society glorifies the idea of pushing through pain no matter the cost, as though suffering is a badge of honor. But here's the catch. What if that very perseverance is the problem? Imagine someone stuck in a toxic job, convinced that quitting would mean failure. They endure sleepless nights, mounting stress, and a growing sense of emptiness, all in the name of staying strong. This relentless pursuit of perseverance doesn't build resilience. It feeds a cycle of negativity and self-sabotage. For many, especially men, this mindset is deeply tied to identity. The pressure to man up or never give up creates an emotional prison. Walking away from a harmful situation feels like admitting defeat, so they stay. Trapped in a loop of suffering disguised as strength, it's like running on a treadmill, exhausting yourself but never actually moving forward. And the worst part, this cycle often goes unnoticed because it's so normalized. People applaud the sacrifice without questioning the cost. But here's the thing, perseverance without purpose is just prolonged pain. It's not about giving up, it's about knowing when to pivot. What if the real strength lies in stepping back, reassessing, and choosing a path that aligns with your well-being? This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And yet, the societal narrative of never quit makes this shift feel almost impossible. This is where identity and social pressure come crashing in, shaping how we define strength and success. Identity is a powerful thing, isn't it? For many men, their sense of self is tightly woven into societal expectations, being strong, unshakable, and always in control. But here's the problem. This rigid definition of masculinity often becomes a trap. The idea that changing course or admitting vulnerability is a sign of weakness creates an unbearable pressure. Imagine a man in a failing relationship, clinging to it because walking away feels like betraying the image of staying strong. The result? He sacrifices his happiness to uphold a fragile identity built on outdated norms. This pressure doesn't just come from within. It's reinforced by society at every turn. Phrases like "real men don't cry" or "tough it out" echo in workplaces, families, and friendships. Over time, this creates a toxic form of resilience, where enduring pain becomes a measure of worth. It's no wonder so many men struggle with self-sabotage, pushing themselves to the brink just to prove they're enough. But here's the truth, this isn't strength. It's suffering disguised as pride. What if redefining identity could break this cycle? Strength doesn't have to mean silence, and resilience doesn't have to mean enduring endless pain. True power lies in embracing change and letting go of the need to conform to societal molds. But unlearning these deeply ingrained beliefs is no small feat. It's a journey that often starts with questioning the very foundation of who you think you're supposed to be. And that's where sublimation and avoidance come into play. Sublimation is often praised as a productive way to channel emotions, but let's be honest, it's not always the solution it seems to be. Turning pain into productivity might look impressive on the surface, but it often masks deeper issues. Think about someone who throws themselves into work after a breakup, logging endless hours to avoid feeling the sting of rejection. Sure, they might get a promotion or hit a career milestone, but at what cost? The underlying sadness doesn't disappear. It just hides, waiting to resurface when they least expect it. This pattern is especially common in those dealing with high-functioning depression. They appear to have it all together, excelling in their careers or personal projects, but inside, they're battling an emotional storm. Sublimation becomes a coping mechanism, a way to avoid confronting feelings of inadequacy or sadness. It's like building a beautiful house on a shaky foundation. It looks great until the cracks start to show. And the worst part? Society often rewards this behavior, calling it dedication or grit, when in reality, it's just avoidance in disguise. But here's the kicker. Avoidance doesn't solve the problem. It prolongs it by refusing to face their emotions head-on. People trap themselves in a cycle of unresolved pain. What if, instead of running from their feelings, they paused to truly acknowledge them? This doesn't mean wallowing in sadness, but rather creating space to process and heal. It's a scary thought, isn't it? Especially in a world that celebrates busyness over balance. And yet, this avoidance is deeply tied to the norms that shape how we view emotional strength, especially in men. High-functioning depression is a silent struggle, often hidden behind a mask of competence and success. Imagine someone who gets up every morning, goes to work, meets deadlines, and even smiles at colleagues, all while feeling utterly empty inside. This is the reality for many men, who are conditioned by societal norms to suppress their emotions and keep going. They tell themselves, as long as I'm getting things done, I'm fine. But are they really? Beneath the surface, the pressure to maintain this facade chips away at their mental health, creating a dangerous cycle of emotional avoidance. Masculine norms play a significant role in this. From a young age, boys are taught to man up, to hide their tears, and to equate vulnerability with weakness. This conditioning doesn't just discourage emotional expression, it actively punishes it. Over time, this leads to a dangerous form of emotional isolation, where even admitting to feeling overwhelmed feels like failure. The result? Men who are silently battling depression while outwardly appearing to thrive. It's a lonely and exhausting existence, one that society rarely acknowledges, let alone addresses. The irony is that this suppression often leads to greater suffering. By denying their emotions, men cut themselves off from the very tools that could help them heal. What if instead of viewing vulnerability as a weakness, we saw it as a form of strength? What if opening up about struggles was seen as courageous rather than shameful? These questions challenge the deeply ingrained norms that perpetuate this cycle. And yet, the consequences of this emotional suppression go even deeper, often manifesting in ways that are harder to ignore, like anhedonia and psychic amputation. Anhedonia is one of the most devastating consequences of emotional suppression. It's not just the inability to feel joy, it's the gradual loss of connection to everything that once made life meaningful. Picture someone who used to love playing guitar or spending time with friends, but now feels nothing but numbness. This isn't laziness or lack of motivation. It's the result of years of emotional self-denial. For many men, this numbness is compounded by what can only be described as psychic amputation, a severing of their emotional selves in the name of appearing strong. This emotional disconnection doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow erosion, fueled by societal expectations to prioritize resilience over vulnerability. Over time, men learn to shut down their feelings, thinking it will protect them from pain. But instead of shielding them, this suppression creates a void. They may still function, go to work, pay bills, even smile at family gathering inside. They feel hollow. And the worst part, they often don't even realize what's happening until the numbness becomes unbearable. What if the path to healing started with reclaiming those lost emotions? It's not about flipping a switch and suddenly feeling joy again. It's about taking small, deliberate steps to reconnect with what matters. Maybe it's revisiting an old hobby, or simply allowing yourself to feel sadness without judgment. These moments of reconnection, though small, can be profound. But breaking free from this emotional paralysis requires more than just individual effort. It demands a shift in how we define success and fulfillment, especially in a world obsessed with achievement. Success without meaning is a trap that's all too easy to fall into. Imagine someone who spends years chasing promotions, accolades, or financial milestones, only to find themselves feeling emptier with each achievement. It's a cruel irony. Society tells us that success will bring happiness, but for many, it only deepens the void. This cycle is particularly common among men who tie their self-worth to external accomplishments. They work harder, push further, and sacrifice more, hoping that the next milestone will finally bring fulfillment. But it never does. This relentless pursuit often stems from the need to uphold an idealized identity. Men are taught to be providers, achievers, and problem solvers, so they equate their value with what they can produce. But here's the problem. When success becomes the sole focus, everything else, relationships, health, even joy, takes a back seat. It's like climbing a ladder only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. And the higher they climb, the harder it becomes to admit that something is missing. Breaking free from this cycle requires a radical shift in perspective. What if success wasn't about how much you achieve, but about how aligned your life feels with your values? This isn't an easy question to answer, especially in a world that glorifies hustle culture. But the first step is recognizing that the cycle exists and that it's okay to step off the treadmill. Of course, stepping away from this pattern often reveals deeper issues, like the avoidance and emotional disconnection that keep the cycle alive. Avoidance is a sneaky thing. It often feels like a solution, distracting yourself with work, hobbies, or even vices to escape uncomfortable emotions. But over time, avoidance becomes its own prison. Think about someone who turns to alcohol or endless hours of gaming to numb their stress. At first, it seems harmless, even helpful. But as the days turn into months, the unresolved emotions pile up, creating a wall of disconnection between them and their true selves. The more they avoid, the harder it becomes to face what's really going on. This pattern of avoidance is particularly dangerous for men who are often taught to suppress their feelings. Instead of seeking help or opening up, they bury their struggles under layers of distraction. But here's the harsh reality. Avoidance doesn't make the pain go away, it just delays it. And in many cases, it leads to deeper issues like depression, anxiety, or even suicidal thoughts. The pressure to maintain a facade of strength becomes unbearable, especially when the disconnection from their emotions feels irreversible. So, how do you break free? It starts with small, intentional steps. Maybe it's as simple as journaling about your feelings or having an honest conversation with a trusted friend. These acts of vulnerability can feel terrifying, but they're also incredibly liberating. The key is to stop running and start reconnecting with yourself, with others, and with the present moment. And as you begin to rebuild that connection, you'll notice something profound. The mind and body are deeply intertwined, and ignoring one inevitably affects the other. The mind and body are more connected than most people realize. When mental stress goes unchecked, it doesn't just stay in your head, it seeps into your body, manifesting as chronic fatigue, headaches, or even heart problems. Think about someone constantly under pressure, juggling work deadlines, family responsibilities, and their own internal struggles. Over time, that stress builds up, and suddenly they're dealing with unexplained back pain or insomnia. It's not just coincidence, it's the body screaming for attention when the mind is ignored. This connection is especially dangerous for those who suppress their emotions. Men, in particular, are often conditioned to tough it out, ignoring the warning signs their bodies are giving them. But here's the thing, the body doesn't lie. When you bottle up stress, it finds a way to express itself physically. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It might stay down for a while, but eventually it'll pop back up with force. And the longer you ignore it, the more damage it does, both mentally and physically. So, what's the solution? It starts with listening. To your body, to your emotions, and to the signals you've been brushing aside. Practices like mindfulness, yoga, or even a simple walk can help bridge the gap between mind and body. These aren't just trendy buzzwords, they're tools to help you reconnect with yourself. Because when you start paying attention to what your body is telling you, you'll realize that healing isn't just about fixing one part, it's about nurturing the whole. And yet, even with this awareness, many people cling to the belief that sacrificing now will lead to happiness later. The idea of sacrificing today for a better tomorrow is deeply ingrained in our culture. Work hard now, and you'll be happy later, they say. But what if that promise is nothing more than an illusion? Imagine someone who spends years grinding away at a job they hate, telling themselves it'll all be worth it once they retire. Yet, when that day finally comes, they're left with nothing but exhaustion and regret. The truth is, constantly postponing happiness creates a life built on frustration and unfulfilled dreams. This mindset is especially harmful because it feeds into a cycle of self-denial. People convince themselves that enduring stress, sacrificing relationships, and ignoring their well-being are necessary steps toward success. But here's the catch. The more you sacrifice, the harder it becomes to break free. Happiness doesn't magically appear at the end of the road. It's something you cultivate along the way. And yet, society continues to glorify this suffer now, thrive later mentality, leaving countless people stuck in a loop of dissatisfaction. Breaking this cycle requires a radical shift in perspective. What if instead of chasing a distant goal, you focused on finding joy in the present moment? This doesn't mean abandoning your ambitions. It means balancing them with gratitude and self-care. Start small. Take a moment each day to appreciate something you've achieved, or enjoy a simple pleasure, like a walk or a good meal. These moments of presence can transform your outlook, creating a life that feels meaningful now, not just someday. And this shift sets the stage for something even more powerful, learning how to truly engage with the present. Involvement with the present moment is the antidote to the endless chase for future happiness. But let's be real, being present isn't as easy as it sounds. Our minds are constantly racing, replaying past mistakes, or worrying about what's next. It's like trying to enjoy a sunset while scrolling through your phone. True involvement means putting the distractions aside and fully engaging with what's in front of you. Imagine savoring your morning coffee without rushing or listening to a loved one, without thinking about your to-do list. These small acts of presence can transform how you experience life. The beauty of being present is that it reconnects you with what truly matters. When you stop running from your emotions or numbing yourself with distractions, you create space to feel, heal, and grow. For someone stuck in a cycle of avoidance, this might mean sitting with uncomfortable feelings instead of pushing them away. It's not easy. Facing your emotions can feel like staring into a storm. But here's the thing, storms pass, and when they do, they leave behind clarity and calm. The more you practice this, the more you'll realize that life isn't happening in the past or future. It's happening right now. This shift doesn't require grand gestures. Start small. Take 5 minutes to breathe deeply, notice your surroundings, or write down what you're grateful for. These moments of involvement ground you, breaking the cycle of disconnection and avoidance. And as you begin to live more authentically in the present, you'll discover something profound. Happiness isn't a destination. It's a skill you cultivate. But to truly sustain this happiness, you need to build a foundation that supports it. And that's where sustainable practices and support systems come into play. Involvement with the present moment is the antidote to the endless chase for future happiness. But let's be real, being present isn't as easy as it sounds. Our minds are constantly racing, replaying past mistakes, or worrying about what's next. It's like trying to enjoy a sunset while scrolling through your phone. True involvement means putting the distractions aside and fully engaging with what's in front of you. Imagine savoring your morning coffee without rushing or listening to a loved one without thinking about your to-do list. These small acts of presence can transform how you experience life. The beauty of being present is that it reconnects you with what truly matters. When you stop running from your emotions or numbing yourself with distractions, you create space to feel, heal, and grow. For someone stuck in a cycle of avoidance, this might mean sitting with uncomfortable feelings instead of pushing them away. It's not easy. Facing your emotions can feel like staring into a storm. But here's the thing, storms pass. And when they do, they leave behind clarity and calm. The more you practice this, the more you'll realize that life isn't happening in the past or future. It's happening right now. This shift doesn't require grand gestures. Start small. Take 5 minutes to breathe deeply, notice your surroundings, or write down what you're grateful for. These moments of involvement ground you, breaking the cycle of disconnection and avoidance. And as you begin to live more authentically in the present, you'll discover something profound. Happiness isn't a destination. It's a skill you cultivate. But to truly sustain this happiness, you need to build a foundation that supports it. And that's where sustainable practices and support systems come into play. Sustainable happiness isn't about fleeting moments of joy. It's about creating a life where contentment becomes the baseline, not the exception. But here's the thing, happiness isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you build. Imagine someone who spends years chasing external achievements, only to realize they've neglected their inner world. Sustainable happiness requires flipping that script. It's about finding joy in the small, everyday moments and learning to appreciate life as it is, not as you wish it would be. It's less about chasing and more about being. One of the keys to this kind of happiness is self-awareness. You can't build a fulfilling life if you don't know what truly fulfills you. This means taking the time to reflect on your values, passions, and what genuinely brings you peace. Maybe it's spending time in nature, reconnecting with loved ones, or simply allowing yourself to rest without guilt. These aren't luxuries, they're necessities. And the more you invest in understanding yourself, the easier it becomes to create a life that feels aligned with who you are, not who society tells you to be. But let's not sugarcoat it. Building sustainable happiness takes effort. It's about breaking free from the cycle of external validation and learning to find purpose and pleasure in the present. Start by asking yourself, what small changes can I make today to feel more connected to my life? Maybe it's practicing gratitude, setting boundaries, or even seeking support from a coach or community. These steps might seem small, but they're powerful. And when combined with the right support systems, they can transform your life in ways you never thought possible. Sometimes, the hardest part of breaking free from toxic cycles is realizing you don't have to do it alone. Coaching or support networks can be the lifeline you didn't know you needed. Imagine having someone who not only listens, but helps you untangle the web of self-doubt, avoidance, and pressure you've been carrying for years. A coach, for example, can guide you toward clarity, offering tools to shift your mindset and take actionable steps. On the other hand, a supportive community reminds you that you're not alone. Those have walked this path and come out stronger. The beauty of seeking support is that it creates accountability and momentum. Left to our own devices, it's easy to fall back into old habits or convince ourselves that change isn't possible. But when you have someone cheering you on or challenging you to think differently, it becomes harder to stay stuck. Think of it like having a gym buddy. You're far more likely to show up and push yourself when someone's there to encourage you. Whether it's a coach, a therapist, or a group of like-minded individuals, these connections can be the catalyst for lasting transformation. But here's the thing. Asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's a declaration of strength. It's saying, I'm ready to invest in myself and my future. And that's where the magic happens. With the right guidance and support, you can break free from cycles of avoidance, reconnect with your purpose, and build a life that feels fulfilling. The journey isn't easy, but it's worth it. And as you take those first steps, you'll realize that true growth happens when you're supported, not when you go it alone.